Welcome folks, I want to do one quick adjustment to my sound. I want to put the sound through the headphones rather than through the speakers. And I actually, when I'm flying without the internet, I actually prefer the sound through the computer, through the speakers. But I get this terrible double feedback effect if I don't do this. So there we go, that should be better. Anyway, we are in Seattle. I'd like to say my home airport. I didn't learn to fly here. I learned to fly close to here in a little town called Renton, about 7 miles to the west, and another airport called Crest Air Park, which is in the city of Kent Covington, Washington. And I think I got the best of both worlds. When I learned to fly, I started at a towered airport, so I got used to more activity and air traffic control. And then I finished my training at an uncontrolled airport, so I got used to being very situational aware of my surroundings and not depending on the tower for safety as much. And also, the uncontrolled airport was a whole lot smaller. got to learn to land on a postage stamp. Anyway, here we are. Now this is a monstrously unrealistic flight for a 787 Dreamliner. We are just taking a quick hop down to Portland today, PDX Airport, KPDX. But this is an airport I know. SeaTac intimately, and I know Portland very well. So I thought I'd start out here with the mod. And like a lot of people, I find the default airplanes just impossible to fly. So once they announced that this mod had been progressing, I said, boy, I got to try this out. So let's get my favorite ground handling program going, Pushback Express, written by FS2 Crew. Of course, this isn't an Airbus, so I don't have an onboard crew with me today. But that's okay. I cut my chops on airline flight simulators with the Boeing 737 Zibo in X-Plane. So I've always been a little bit more comfortable with the Boeing products to begin with. Not only the fact that I grew up in the land of Boeing. If it ain't Boeing, we ain't going. Or as I used to say, never fully put your trust in an airplane manufacturer who calls itself Boeing. that's the local saying. Let's open the cabin door. There it goes. Let's attach the jet bridge. Yes, I know that jet bridges work here in Seattle. Just took a flight from Saskatoon to Kelowna, and it was a payware airport, but the jet bridges didn't work. This is a default Seattle, but it's one of the handcrafted defaults. So it's very, very nice. Not sure exactly what the baggage handling is going to be like for this airplane. Let's take a look. Okay, it's got the simple baggage door. I believe this aircraft does take palletized cargo. It's a wide body, long haul aircraft. Matter of fact, I'm not sure this simple baggage conveyor can even reach to the loading deck on the 87. Let's look. Let's see what's going on here. Well, barely. Again, I don't believe in normal operations you would load unpalletized bags into a 787. Anyway, let's see what this new airplane is all about. First time on the flight deck. Let's do it. I have my virtual first officer. That's wonderful. And I've got a whole lot of things I'm not monstrously familiar with, but that's okay. It's all a learning experience, right? It's all okay until someone puts an eye out. Let's see if I can get all of this overhead. Oh, looks like I do not have ground power available. So let's turn the battery on. APU to on. Let's put on a fuel pump. Some left fuel pumps. Get the beacon light on. And maybe the nav light, the logo light and the wing light. Those are good. We'll start the APU. I can hear some activity. Is there a screen that we can monitor the APU with, perhaps? Ooh, I'm loving these navigation screens. Is there an EFS screen I can choose? There's got to be an EFS screen. Well, this is an engine system screen, but it doesn't tell me about my APU. I'm going to assume that unlike the 737, I don't have to transfer power onto the bus. What is this electronic flight bag that we have over here on the one side? It doesn't seem to have much functionality to it. IRS switches are on and they are unmovable, so that is very much like the default airplane, I believe. Window heat is on. Okay, so a lot of this cargo fire, cargo temperature, air conditioning. A lot of this is default. I'm not going to be able to do much with it. Well, let's go down to where the rubber meets the road, to the flight management computer, and this is going to make or break the aircraft, in my opinion. Okay, this is radios. EFB, overhead, rear overhead. I'm sorry. Overhead, rear overhead. There we go. Guess no place to start like the index. Maintenance. Nothing on the maintenance screen. Okay, 78710 AirAC cycle is current. Gen X 2B67 engines. Position initialization screen. Our GPS position is here. I'll take that and I'll copy it in to set the IRS position. Reference airport is Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha. Gate, we're at S15, South 15. Route. Send a request. Are we able to origin? Destination. Papa Delta X-ray. Flight number 43. Company route. Nothing. Well, let's go back to our route. Next page. Is there a next page? Oh, here we go. And we can get our route this way. $16 left. Direct Kuga, Krieg, Hawks 2. Okay. I'm afraid this is going to disappear. Oh, it disappeared. Let's see. Yeah, it did. C-O-U-G. Kuga. Krieg, K-R-I-E-G. Departure arrival. Depart SeaTac. 16 left. It was correct, right? 16 left. 16 left, that's correct. And Seattle 7 is just vectors. So that's what I'll choose. And arrival is Hawks 2. Hawks 2, do we have a runway yet? No runway. Oh. Well, I want the ILS to runway 10 left. And I know the Helen 6 will get me there. So that'll be what I select. Okay. And let's look at the route. Let's look at the legs. Cougar Krieg. Okay, I'm not monstrously confident of that. 310 for the cruise altitude, that's fine. I'm going to do something. I turned off air traffic control for my last flight using the outside program Pilot to ATC. But this time, I'm going to use the default air traffic control. ATC voices on and save. Wonderful. Let's get a clearance. Boy, these maps are going to come in handy when it comes time to taxi. Well, we'll get an ATIS first. I don't know where the transponder is. I'm going to assume that you will enter the transponder code for me, as most Microsoft Flight Simulator programs do. And I will not worry about it. Flight director on, flight director's on. Landing gear down, brake to RTO. I just disconnected my Airbus throttles. So I'm going to move the Bravo throttle quadrant into the 2-jet configuration. Since it's done thinking about it. Two-engine jet. Okay. Let's talk to the ground crew. Okay, there's no way to request pushback from Microsoft ATC, so we're just going to do it. Tune to ground. Let's disconnect the jet bridge. Whoa, spinning around like a top. Let's get that nulled out. I don't mind the axis controlling the views. I just want to have a little control, that's all. Oh. The good thing about using the Airbus throttles is that when I use the 3 and 4 engine throttles on a 2-engine jet, I use them for the views. Those detents act as a stop, so I can, so I'm not spinning around like a whirlish derby. Okay, jet bridge disconnect. And let's request our pushback. I really miss not having a first officer. I miss having a first officer. I have a visual first officer, just not a interactive first officer. Thank you. Let's kick up the rest of the fuel pumps. Get the hydraulics on. Hydraulics and electrics are not on. Left and right engine select and start modes are in norm. We'll start number 2. And we'll start number 1. Engines are spooling up nicely. No need to turn off the packs. No need to do the engines one at a time. And almost impossible to get lost taxiing at SeaTac. That's a great thing about this airport. We're looking good. Let's get a taxi clearance. Do we have a flight control page? Looks like these system buttons don't work. Okay, can't do flight control check. We'll just do a check without the screens. Down elevator, up elevator, right aileron, left aileron, right rudder, left rudder, brakes, spoilers. I don't know what takeoff configuration is on the flaps. We'll say it's 15. Did we do a performance check on the FMC? Cost index, let's get rid of this for right now. 85. Cruise altitude, didn't we say it was flight level 310? Reserves are 2.2. Thrust limits, we'll do a D-rated 20% takeoff, climb 2. V-speeds are pre-calculated, flaps setting is 15. Okay, and we are set. There's our legs page. I like to have the number 1 FMC on the legs page and then the number 2 FMC on the performance page. I don't seem to be able to adjust number 2. Okay, well, number 2 is the looking pretty page. Clear to my left, clear to the right. We have our taxi clearance. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oops, certainly not what I wanted to do. Yeah, there we go. Let's get ourselves down to runway 16. Break off. Throttle's up. Oh my goodness, I know why we have a problem. Because we started the engines, but we never gave the engines any fuel. Got a critical. The engines need fuel. So let's go back down to our run 1, run 2. Let's see if that makes a difference in having some fuel in the engines. Here we go. Now we're getting some spool up. We were going to have the most efficient engines in all of SeaTac. Ha ha ha! You never saw an airplane fly without fuel. Maybe it's one of those Tesla airplanes. Solar panels on the wings. Okay, what's the flap setting? Is that 10 or 15? I can't read that number. It's 10. We need 15. Let's go. Bring the flaps down to 15. Rudder trim 0. Stabilizer trim is in the green. Brake is off, so we're already taxiing like a bandit. Don't need to taxi quite that quickly. Watch out for these ground vehicles. I can see there's some work to be done. A lot of the switches are still in up, but from what I'm seeing as far as functionality, as far as getting in the air with the flight plan, it's looking great. Now, I did hear that SimBrief was incorporated into the aircraft somehow. We weren't able to do that. I just went ahead and entered the flight plan manually. But data link connection is the current standard. And of course, this aircraft does have some checklists that if I were a little more rigid, we'd follow a checklist. There are 3 parallel runways here. 1/6 left is the closest one to us. So let's see if we can't get clearance here. Oh, again, not what I wanted to do. Get some of these lights on. Start the clock. Release the parking brake. Check for downwind. Check for traffic on final. See if the toga button works. Toga button might not be mapped. Is there a secret toga button somewhere? Usually, somewhere there's a secret toga button. Not sure. Don't really need it. Oh yes, we have toga on the screens. Positive rate. Gear up. Beautiful. Autopilot on. Auto thrust on. 250 knots airspeed is our target. LNAV and VNAV. Port of Tacoma just ahead of us to the right. I see the first officer is also enjoying her view, even though she has yet to put on a seatbelt. Flaps up. And we're climbing like a bat out of that lower place. Let's get us a little range. Oops, boy, it's a little frustrating. looks like that Buzo intersection is, let's go straight to Helen's. I can't get that into the previous page, can I? I want to get that cursor on previous page. Let's move the speed brake handle out of the way here a little bit. There we go. Let's go to Helen's. Next page. Helen's. Previous page. Oh, there we go. Previous page. Helen's. It's not doing it. Next page. Helen's. Previous page. Helen's. I'm not really able to. It's not taking that flight. Not letting me edit the flight plan at all. It's such a short flight. You can see there's Mount St. Helen, Mount Adam, Mount Rainier. If it weren't such a cloudy day, we'd probably see Mount Hood from here as well. Well, I'm not going to allow the computer to do this disjointed plan. We'll just continue on vectors. I'll just give myself vectors. Basically, PDX Airport is just behind St. Helens there, the one with the top blown off. So we pass it on the right hand side and make a long downwind to runway 10. I'm going to roll the heading around and aim it right there, and then we're going to go into heading mode. Select. Usually you wouldn't stay this low because you'd be burning way too much fuel. But I don't care about fuel. It's such a short flight. Let's manage our airspeed as well. Bring our airspeed down to 200 knots. Well, 230, 230. We're gonna get a treat. We're gonna get a treat here in just a bit, okay, sweetie? Yeah. Yeah, my cat Sally, she's kind of looking for breakfast. We'll have breakfast here just after we touch down in beautiful Portland with this modified 787. Let's zoom our range a little bit. There's Mount Hood in the background. We are lower than an airliner would normally be. But we're certainly high enough to clear this terrain. I don't know if our ILS information will translate it from the flight management computer into our multi-control panel, MCP. We'll find out that soon enough. Hand land, didn't intend to land by hand in Kelowna my last flight, but I did, so might end up doing that here in Portland as well. Let's go out on the range just a little bit. Both 10 left and 10 right are ILS approaches, and they both parallel the Columbia River. So if you don't have the navigation right away, just put yourself a little bit to the right of the Columbia River shoreline at a heading of 010, and you're in a good position for either 10 left or 10 right. If I remember, we're aiming for 10 left today. Let's drop the speed down to 200 and go to our first notch of flaps. Brakes to maximum. Speed brake to armed. Speed to 190. We'll add another notch of flaps. Info tab. I'm not sure what that's supposed to do. We'll add in another notch of flaps. Add in another notch of flaps. We'll go down to 180. Gear down. Got to remember, this is a much bigger airplane than a 737, so the sight picture on approach will be much different. You're going to feel like you're in a third-story building when the wheels are touching down. Maybe not quite as bad as a 747, but certainly a whole lot higher than a 737. Another notch of flaps. Another notch of flaps. We'll go down to 170. Kick up our range a little bit. There's the Columbia River. I actually can see the airport. Just that bend, when the river bends to the left. On the left-hand side, the river bends to the left, and then just as it's coming around to the right again, that's the flat area where the airport is. Let's go to 165 and full flaps. Go to 150. Go down to 4,000 feet. They take us down to 3,000 feet. Actually, 2,500 feet. We're at target altitude. Radar altimeter. That's 2,500 feet AGL above ground level, so we're slightly above that MSL. And I'm going to slowly turn the heading in toward BUXM. There's another airport there below us. I have no idea what that airport is. Troutdale? No, it might be Troutdale. No, I think Troutdale is east of PDX. Don't know what that airport is. I know there's one airport west of PDX where the Spruce Goose, Howard Hughes's wooden-built 8-engine monster aircraft, was disassembled and it's in crates somewhere in Oregon, west of Portland. No idea how they got it disassembled and in crates way up in the Portland, Oregon area. Turn a little bit more toward BUXM. Actually, just a little bit beyond BUXM, a little closer to travel. Nice, gentle intercept. Well, I'm going to go into approach mode, even though I don't hear an ILS. dual autopilot. Again, it's strange. Maybe it's because I didn't turn the nav radio speaker on. I usually like to listen to the ILS frequency. We're also not on a nice lineup as I would like. Let's get out of this and continue in heading mode. Get more lined up on the runway. Oh, autopilot's off. I'm going to take over. So I believe that river just ahead of us, we're flying right over the Columbia River now, but in the distance ahead of us, I believe that's the Willamette River. The Columbia is generally an east-west river. The Willamette is generally a north-south river. And downtown Portland is not on the Columbia. It's actually on the Willamette. And we're very high. That I do know that airport just below us. That's in Washington State. Oh my goodness, what is the name of that field? I've flown in and out of that field. It's in Washington State. There's a payware version of it on X-Plane. I think it might be KVOU for Vancouver. Getting a little bit of stutters. We're high on the PAPI. Portland is not Class Bravo airspace, as the biggest airports in the country are. Portland is actually Class Charlie airspace. So it's classified as a medium airport. Certainly not a hub. There's 3-degree glide slope. We lost our PAPI. Continue. This is a lot of float. Yeah, that's bad. we have ourselves cleaned up. Let's get the APU started. There's Mount Hood, the most symmetrical of the Cascade volcanoes. In that regard, it's visually similar to Mount Fuji in Japan, whereas the other Cascade Mountains, Shasta in California, Three Sisters, Mount Baker, Mount Adams, Rainier, St. Helens, all have a blunted look. That looks like it might be either a Sheraton or a Red Lion hotel. There's a Hampton Inn. But when they say Hampton Inn at the airport, they're not kidding, are they? It's right there at the airport. I don't remember if this is payware or default. Portland is a little unusual in the fact that almost all of its concourses and baggage areas are carpeted. Kind of reminds me of coming into Orlando. I think Orlando is carpeted in some areas that you wouldn't otherwise expect. Or, I'm sorry, not Orlando, Nashville. Nashville, BNA, KBNA. Probably needless to mention, not many, if any, wide bodies ever come and visit Portland. Be very, very unusual to have a 787 here. As I mentioned, it's not a hub airport. Maybe Delta won't mind if we take one of their gate positions. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? Okay. Let's cut the engines. Hopefully the APU will keep things running. Never did really find the seatbelt. I think the seatbelt light's back here. Forward entry. Don't know where the seatbelt lights are. Maybe we can get a jet bridge attached. Yeah, there's a jet bridge. There goes the forward entry door. Beautiful. Engines are off. We're on the APU. These fine folks can take 3/4 of an hour to get off this aircraft, and we can end our stream. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.